Your Creative Force by Avianne is currently available on Global Voice Radio.
Talent is a flame. Genius is a fire. Broadcasting from the San Francisco Bay Area, the all-new all-hit show on creativity. Hosted by international award-winning artist and entrepreneur, Avianne. You're listening to Your Creative Force. And now here's your host, Avianne.
Hi, this is Avianne coming to you once again from the lovely San Francisco Bay Area in California, the USA. Today, in episode 28 of Your Creative Force by Avianne, we are going to deal with the topic of smart business goals. This is something I've been meaning to discuss with you guys for a while. Okay, today we're going to look at articles written by two different people on this topic, and I am going to give you some of my own insights, experiences, tips, and some creative content around this topic of smart business goals. Okay? I think we struggle with this in many aspects as business owners. First of all, because we are struggling with what I call objectivity in our business, right? We're very subjective. Our emotions, our own life experiences, our own drawbacks, our own maybe things that we're not so great at, maybe blind spots we have, tap into the goals we set. And sometimes they cause us to lose track of our goals or to get distracted into rabbit holes that really don't accomplish our goals. And then we start chasing moving targets. Okay. So in episode 28 today, it is all going to be about reining in our business goals so they don't become moving targets that we chase to no avail. After years of building and running several businesses in the creative industry, I have come to realize that even the noblest and most sensible of business goals can become moving targets very easily if we are not prepared to make hard decisions when we need to. Nobody can chase a moving target. Every successful business owner knows that having smart business goals really matters. If your business goals are, for example, too emotional, too sentimental, too rigid, costing you way too much in time and money, taking way too long to achieve, you can quickly find yourself in a situation where you are actually fighting in the trenches all the time with no end in sight, quickly losing your hope of ever winning the battle. This can lead to endurance fatigue and eventually burnout. Those are things we discussed in previous episodes, so I really implore you to go and read up on what I said about the previous episodes and to go and listen to those episodes and really go and learn from that, because we have also interviewed people. We've looked at articles written by very high-end, high-level kind of professionals on these topics, and endurance fatigue and burnout are serious things that can be the result of us not setting really smart business goals, okay? Because I am in the process of sharpening my own tools and reshaping my own business goals in this regard, I want to share some of my discoveries and lessons with you on this topic. Now, before we jump straight into part one, I just want to give you a bit of context of where I'm at right now. In my own businesses, I run a few different kinds of businesses. My businesses are centered within the creative industry. I am very slowly but surely launching my coaching/creative coaching classes. I am also starting to gain traction, getting experience, doing some professional development so that I can be a good creative coach, not just from my practical business experience, but I actually want to get some very technical things under the belt to be able to do that really, really well. And in the meantime, I'm also running my art academy, and I'm also running my career as a high-end fine artist. And I am right now in a place where these things are all very important to me. They are all things that I care about, things I feel I should be doing. But here's the thing, right? They are three things that can sometimes be three very different things. And for me to be able to continue doing these three things and doing them very well, I need to seriously reevaluate my goals. I need to make sure that my goals are smart, that my goals are on target. And because these businesses are evolving, they're growing, some parts of them are actually being trimmed a little bit, right? I'm trimming some parts of it back, and then I'm building out other parts of these 3 businesses so that I can be more effective, so that I feel I can achieve more in less time, so that I can be more efficient and more productive in all 3 aspects of these businesses. The radio show for me is just a part of what I'm doing currently with my businesses, right? So I have to really take a hard look at some of these things I'm doing, how much I'm doing, what is really working for me and what is not. There are some aspects of my art academy that is not really working so good for me right now, because certain areas of the academy, certain aspects, certain classes, certain things we do at the academy, those things have grown and have turned into massive successes. And there are other things we were doing in the academy that I find are becoming kind of a drag, right? They're not really working for us. They're not bringing in the revenue or the kinds of students we're really after. So those parts of the academy, I need to trim back and restructure and reevaluate, and maybe even hand over some of those things to other people, right? Who are in better positions to take those things and run with them, because my vision is slightly different. The kind of students I typically have are students who are very serious about their art making, or students who want to learn art from a very academic or technically excellent perspective, right? I don't really do art recreationally. So there is some shifts happening in what we're doing, and it's forcing me to look at having smart business goals. And this is something you're going to do all the time in your business, is reevaluating your goals. It's still kind of in the beginning of the year for me right now while I'm doing this radio show. And so I am still putting things in place. And you know what? I'm also thinking of the next year and the next year and long term, right? So that all being said, in part 1 today, we are going to focus on making sure we have smart business goals to begin with. Okay, I'm going to refer to some things we've discussed in more detail and in greater depth in previous episodes. So I hope you bear with me. So let's roll. We have talked a lot in our previous episodes about strategy, branding, values, company culture, boundaries, intuition, right? And so many other aspects of the entrepreneurial journey that we need to take into consideration if we wish to build a healthy, sustainable organization, right? I am sure I am doing this assuming that you guys, like me, want your business to be healthy emotionally and in terms of numbers and in terms of every aspect of your business, even culturally, be healthy. And also that you would really like your organization to be sustainable, right? Because you can build cute little dreams in your head, but if those dreams cannot make it in reality, then they really don't mean much, right? So that we've dealt with in a lot of previous episodes. And the reason we've done that is because we are often not taught to consciously consider all of these things. Or following the example of big companies, we just tend to hire someone else to take care of it without really knowing what these things are about. And then what happens is that these things become especially critical for the small business owner or potential small business owner, right? For us as business owners or potential business owners, these things become important, okay? We're not taught to take care of it, right? We don't really know what these things are about, okay? But these things become progressively more important as we go along. I hope I'm making sense. I'm trying to pack so much information in one little sentence, but I think you know what I mean, right? Sometimes we just develop blind spots. We can't focus on everything, so we let things slide. We don't address things, or we let other people take care of them, and then we don't really know what's going on anymore, okay? I've already noticed that my art academy is starting to really get bigger, right? And I started realizing there are certain parts of my art academy that I feel I don't have tabs on it so good anymore. I don't really know where we're taking certain things anymore because it's become so big, and I've had to hire other teachers, but now I feel uncomfortable with some aspects of it, right? Because I feel like I'm almost losing control in the sense that I don't know where we're really going with it. So that's why I'm resetting my goals, right? Because in the interest of my students, in the interest of my clients, I need to really know and have my finger on the button and know what's going on. I need to know where we're going. I can't just have people following me blindly into darkness, right? I'm driving the vision. So I'm reevaluating, restructuring, and re-emphasizing to myself again, where is it that we are going, right? And that is something that we can lose track of as business owners as we get bogged down by the day-to-day managing and the day-to-day operations of our businesses. Even as we start handing things over to other people, we can start losing track of really having clever, smart business goals, right? So that's what this is all about for us today. Okay, so I'm going to just go over that again. Because we are often not taught to consciously consider all of these things, or following the example of big companies just tend to hire someone else to take care of it without really knowing what these things are about, then these things become especially critical for us, right? Because in smaller businesses, issues tend to fester longer and do a lot more damage in the long run. The business feels it more because the issues are spread out between fewer people and fewer real-world applications. One undetected bad apple in a small business, for instance, not adhering to the values, can easily bring the entire business down, whereas it would be harder in a bigger company where there tends to be more hard-numbered types of checks and balances, and people tend to be fired or laid off more easily for underperformance. I can tell you, I personally know a business owner who, when me, myself and I, as his friend, look at his business from the outside, I can tell him there's at least 2 people in his business that he needs to fire. And you know what's the tragedy for him is that he will not fire them because they're family members. And that is something I find very sad, because he's actually harming his business, and he doesn't even want to consider the fact that these people being so unproductive and actually being downright unsupportive of his business when it comes down to it at the end of the day, having them work in his business is actually bad for his business, and it's actually bad for them too, because they don't really want to be there. So this is just stuff that when you're dealing with a small business, it's a different dynamic. In a big business, people are not going to care so much about other people's feelings on a personal level, maybe. And so if people do bad stuff, or they're harming the business, or they're not performing, then there can be these hard number discussions and people can get fired or laid off, right? If things don't work. But in a smaller business, because we're often dealing with people we really love and care about, these things become a lot more hard to do. Okay, so you need to realize this. Okay, so sometimes issues like these can lurk in the dark corners of a small business who may not have the HR department or the extremely performance-specific goals set for each employee like bigger businesses do, okay? That's just one example of this. Getting those elements of the internal business operations and external business identity under control and minimizing the snowball effect of overlooked or unaddressed problems that may arise are paramount to achieving our goals. But without smart goals, guess what? Nothing else really gets us anywhere, right? Without smart goals, we are starting with a disadvantage, and we are setting ourselves up for failure on many fronts, okay? For instance, if your goals aren't really smart, your strategy, your branding, your values, your company culture, your boundaries, your intuition, nothing else is going to matter, because you're not going to know what your goals are. Your goals won't be smart, so you will end up doing this thing that I call chasing moving targets, okay? What I mean by that is very simple, actually, okay? Imagine yourself doing target practice, right? Let's say you have a paintball gun and you want to do target practice using this paintball gun, right? And you're like setting yourself up behind a structure and you have to come around the corner and you have to shoot at the target, right? To practice your target shooting in paintball. And so what you do is you come around the corner and you want to hit the target and suddenly the target's in a different spot. Now you have to figure out where is the target, where do I run to next? And by the time you get there, then the target is in another spot, okay? And this thing about targets that keep moving around in businesses, you know what happens? In the end, your clients are lost. They don't know where you're going with things, right? They don't know what kind of product they really want from you anymore because things are so complicated and so convoluted. In the end, your employees have no idea what your visions or your goals are anymore because you keep moving the targets. You keep doing this and that and this and that. And you know what? I'm telling you this because I am guilty of this. Sometimes I'm so creative inside of my mind that sometimes I can create too many moving targets. And this is something I have learned from wonderful friends and from my amazing husband who are in business and who work for big startups and companies here in Silicon Valley, is that people, CEOs, are very guilty of creating moving targets for people. They constantly try and reinvent the brand. They constantly try and reinvent the product. But in the process, they can make it so complicated. When person A thinks that the target is in spot number 1, the target is already in spot number 5, and person B thinks the target is in spot number 2, and person C thinks the target is in spot number 10, and in the end, it creates so much frustration because nobody really knows what the business is about anymore. Nobody knows what your strategy is anymore. Nobody knows where you're going with them. And that creates insecurity, and then you start losing your marbles and you start losing clients. Does this make sense? And it is usually a pitfall for people who are super creative. We want to do so many different creative things that we start running into moving targets. And you know what? I started seeing a red light. Remember in our previous episodes, we were talking about seeing red lights in your business and addressing them fast. And I saw this red light coming up for me in the last few days, few weeks, even the last month. I was starting to feel like there are moving targets for me. And I was starting to feel like I'm getting out of breath, trying to chase the moving targets. And you know what? It's my own fault, right? Because I am the driving force. I'm the trailblazer. I'm the business owner. I'm the entrepreneurial leader in this whole equation of things. And I needed to get my ducks in a row, right? And if you've ever tried to do this thing of an entrepreneurial journey and building a small business, you will know that sometimes your ducks that you are supposed to be getting into a row, they're more like squirrels running all over the place, right? So it can be quite a thing to just get things in order. So I started researching this thing about SMART goals and strategy even deeper for myself, okay? And as I'm preparing myself at this time to take a Harvard course, a Harvard business course on entrepreneurship, I am also starting to delve deep into these topics. So this is what I found, okay? So remember, without SMART goals, we are starting with a disadvantage and we are setting ourselves up for failure on many fronts, right? In previous episodes, we have addressed many of these issues, and I implore you to listen to our previous episodes for some great content with great tips to address these aspects of building and running a business for your own sake as the business owner or manager. Today, we will focus on SMART goals and how to prevent the moving target syndrome that tends to creep into businesses of all sizes quite rapidly. And this happens sometimes without you even realizing it, right? Because we can live in our heads and we can think, oh, I know where I'm going. I know where I'm going. And you're looking back at the people who are with you on the journey and they're getting really confused. They're getting really worried because they have no idea what's going on in your head, right? So first, let's look at what are SMART goals exactly, okay? And I'm going to refer to an article that was written by someone named Daryl Zahorsky. And this was updated on January 8th of 2018, okay? So Google 5 elements of a SMART business goal by Daryl Zahorsky and you will find this article, okay? So Horsky is spelled Z-A-H-O-R-S-K-Y. Darryl Zahorsky, D-A-R-R-E-L-L space Z or Z A-H-O-R-S-K-Y. Darryl Zahorsky, updated January 8th, 2018. 5 elements of a smart business goal, okay? Every successful business, he writes, has clearly set and articulated goals to attain specific objectives. Yet in the world of small business, many businesses lack a focused goal. Get more business is a typical reply of small business owners when asked of future plans. Any self-respecting CEO would be tossed out of a shareholder meeting for uttering a vague response, okay? So we can learn some things from the big guys, right? And he continues to write, whether you have a 50-employee company or an empire of one, your business success depends on your ability to set and achieve goals. Put your business on the fast track by applying the principles of SMART goal setting. SMART, S-M-A-R-T, is an acronym for the 5 elements of specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based goals. Okay? It's a specific tool, but a simple tool used by businesses to go beyond the realm of fuzzy goal setting into an actionable plan for results. Okay? Specific. This is the S of SMART, right? Specific. Great goals are well-defined and focused. Obtain 2 new billion-dollar corporate clients in the Boston property insurance market is more meaningful to mobilize your team than get more business, okay? So the first thing is be very specific. I would say for my academy right now, my specific goal is I would like to get more online clients, okay? I've just figured that running this business online would make a lot more sense to me in many regards, okay? Will I still have a physical location? Very likely. Will I still operate from an actual business location to do this business? Yes. But I figure that for the long term, I need to move this business more into the online academy stratosphere, so to speak, okay? So that would be an example from my own journey right now. Okay. Ryan Blair, the goals guy, eloquently states, focus creates a powerful force. Goal power. The moment you focus on a goal, your goal becomes a magnet pulling you and your resources toward it. The more focused your energies, the more power you generate. Okay? Then the M of SMART is measurable. A goal without a measurable outcome is like a sports competition without a scoreboard or scorekeeper. Let's think about that, right? Numbers are an essential part of business. Put concrete numbers in your goals to know if you're on track. A goal whiteboard posted in your office can help as a daily reminder to keep yourself and your employees focused on the targeted results you want to attain. Okay? So figure out how to make them measurable. Okay? They also need to be attainable. Far too often, small businesses can set goals beyond reach. No one has ever built $1 billion business overnight. Venture capitalists and angel investors discard countless business plans of companies with outlandish goals. Dream big and aim for the stars, but keep one foot firmly based in reality. Check with your industry association or get a handle on realistic growth in your industry to set smart goals. Okay? So once again, SMART. The S stands for specific, the M for measurable, the A for attainable, right? And here's the thing about attainable, okay? Your goals need to be realistic. It's very, very important, okay? I am not looking at building the world's greatest art academy in 1 year, Okay, I want to have quality over quantity. And to have quality, I have to pace myself and I have to make sure I have real specific things in place for my art academy, for instance, right? So I am not doing this unattainable thing of I want to own blocks and blocks of property in San Francisco and build this massive campus there. That is not going to help me get the quality academy I want. Plus, it's a very difficult goal to achieve because property in San Francisco like that will probably run me hundreds of millions of dollars, which is not something I want to go after. I don't need that kind of stress right now. So really look at the attainability of your goals. Then the R of SMART. Achievable business goals are based on the current conditions and realities of the business climate. You may desire to have your best year in business or increase revenue by 50%, but if a recession is looming and 3 new competitors open in your market, then your goals aren't relevant to the realities of the market. Oh my gosh, Daryl is so right in writing this. I just have to tell you guys this, okay? One thing that I see a lot of people in the creative industry do wrong, if I can put it that way, is they dream big, right? They're big dreamers. We're creative people with big dreamers, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But then the thing that we tend to do, and I had to learn not to do this, is we feel like we're invincible and we feel like we are not tied to the economy. The normal rules don't apply to us who are truly creative and out of the box, right? But it's not true. I am in the art-based industry, a creative-based industry, and I know my industry is not like the food industry. If you're in the food industry, what you do is a necessity. People must eat, right? If they don't eat, they're going to have a problem. So if your job is to farm potatoes, chances are that people are always going to want to buy your potatoes and eat them, right? But if you're in an industry that manufactures high-end art and do art classes for people, you know what? It's tied to a good economy. I already know that if there's a recession, I am probably looking at losing almost a third, sometimes even a half of my students instantaneously. Okay. And I need to build that into my business plan and be very, very sure that I can sustain my business through a recession, because my business is a want. My business is a desire. It's not a need. And I am aware of that. And I feel it's good to be realistic like that. Okay. So you have to be relevant, okay, in your goals. Then time-based. Goals, business goals, and objectives just don't get done when there's no time frame tied to the goal setting process. Whether your business goal is to increase revenue by 20% or find 5 new clients, choose a time frame to accomplish your goal. Once your business goals are SMART, break down each goal into a specific set of tasks and activities to accomplish your goals. It's important to periodically review your goals and make adjustments if necessary. Goal setting for your small business is an essential tool for success. Remember in the end to be SMART. And let's look at SMART again. SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. And this was written by the Smart Business Goal expert Daryl Zahorsky on January 8th in 2018. It was updated. Great, okay? And that concludes part 1 of our show today. I hope you guys are learning some things with me here today. I am certainly learning with you. We'll be back with part 2 shortly.
Catch the fire of creativity. Visit artbyavianne.com. AVIANNE. And now we return to our show with Avianne.
And we are back with episode 28 today. And this is all about having SMART business goals, right? So in part 2, we are going to look at, even smarter goals, okay? Now, this article called Make Your Goals Smarter by Evaluating and Re-Evaluating was written by Deb Bixler and updated January 24th, 2019. So this is quite a recent article, actually, when we are at the time of us doing the show. In real time, this is actually brand new information, straight off the press, right? Deb Bixler. And she wrote, make your goals smarter by evaluating and re-evaluating. Okay. So just to put everything in context again for part 2 of our show today, remember we are talking about making sure you have smart business goals so you don't keep chasing moving targets all over the place and you don't want to end up pulling your hair out, right? I have the I want to pull out my hair moments sometimes, and then I realize, you know what? I need to go look. I need to go back to the drawing board, right? Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe my branding's off. Maybe my business plan needs updating. Maybe I am creating too many moving targets for myself and I need to set smart goals, or like Deb puts it, even smarter goals, right? So Deb writes, anyone who works from home knows how important it is to set goals. However, many home-based business owners fall short of their goals. They work through goal setting, creating smart goals, but not everyone knows how to set smarter goals, okay? So, and then she explains what she means when she's talking about smart goals and smarter goals, right? I really enjoy this, and I'm telling you guys, after I record this episode, I am going to take this article and I'm going to put it somewhere in my business where I can see it every day, because I really feel I am in a season where I need smart goals and smarter goals to succeed at everything I am trying to succeed at. This is such a wonderful adventure, right? So I don't want you to feel negative or bogged down by what I'm sharing with you about not having your goals and your ducks in line and all that, right? I want you to be excited, because this is an opportunity for us to grow, for me too, right? As our horizons expand, as our capacity to do business and to take on more expands, then we're going to have to reevaluate what we're doing, right? So smart goals, like smart goals, smarter goals stand for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timeless, but it adds 2 extra steps: evaluation and re-evaluation. Okay? Going back to the drawing board again and again is always what you're going to do. You know, it's fascinating to me when I come across business owners and I ask them, okay, so what is your business plan? And what is it that are your goals? And they either don't have any to share with me, or they don't really know how to articulate it very well. I know that in their head, it all makes sense to them. I mean, I know that, because if it didn't make sense to them in their head, why or how would they even do it, right? But they've never written it down. Or if they've written it down, it's so outdated. They wrote it down so long ago that it almost doesn't even apply anymore to what they're doing right now, because they steered the business in a different avenue, a different aspect of their business took over and became their main focus. And so things look different. So I've actually decided that I'm going to rewrite my business plan every single year. And you know what's funny about that? This is why I'm laughing. I just rewrote my business plan, like I would say 2 months ago, right? I rewrote it, reworked it at the end of 2018. It's now in 2019. And I am already finding 2-3 months into 2019, I am finding that I have to rewrite it again, because in the last 2 to 3 months, I have experienced more growth and more opportunities coming my way, and I had to sift through those, and I had to change course on some things that I felt was important, and now those things are just not going to work anymore, because I found better solutions, better business prospects, better business opportunities that are actually driving me into a more sustainable direction, I should say, like taking my academy online. That to me is long-term a lot more sustainable than dealing with all the rigmarole and ins and outs of having physical locations, because it's a headache. If you've ever dealt with having multiple business locations, oh my gosh, it's like so much admin and so much frustration sometimes. So I've decided it would probably cut down on my stress levels to do some of this online. And as it grows, then I could probably pursue more the multiple location kind of avenue, if that's still on the table. But the way the world is going right now, you know what? My gut feeling, my creative force is telling me to go online with most of what I'm doing. And it's an adjustment. It's going to take a while for me to get there because I suddenly find myself in this position where now I have to produce a lot of video content, right? Something I'm not used to producing. And so I'm going to look into a lot of new ways of growing my business to get me to my end goals eventually by doing this. Anyway, so specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, timeless, smart, and then smarter adds evaluation and reevaluation. Now, this is what Deb says about the smart/smarter goals, right? S, the specific goals. So the first part of smarter goal setting is the S, which says you need to be specific in your goals, right? Remember what Daryl was saying in the previous article. Vague goals don't inspire. This is a very important point that Deb is actually making here. Vague goals don't inspire and can make it difficult to know if you achieved them. Saying you want to make more money in your home business is vague. If you make 1 cent more this year, technically you achieved that goal, right? But that's probably not what you meant. Instead, be specific by indicating an exact number you want to hit, right? So be exact in your descriptions. Try and be thorough in how you set your goals. Then measurable goals, what Deb says. The M means to make sure your goals are measurable. Measurable and specific often go together, but not always. The important point to remember here is that you need a way to know your end goal so you know if you're processing and you know if you're progressing and if you reached it. Note that goals doesn't just have to be big. You can have daily goals, such as working on a particular project. When making it measurable, don't just say work on project A. Instead, make it a goal to spend exactly 2 hours on project A. You can measure if you spend 2 hours or not, right? Then attainable goals. It's good to stretch and set challenging goals. Chances are you can do much more than you might give yourself credit for. With that said, watch that you don't set an impossible goal. If you can't actually attain your goal, then you're just going to bring yourself down when you fail. It's important that you set goals that you can actually accomplish so that you're not ruining your morale, okay? For me to decide that I want to be a world famous artist tomorrow is not a realistic goal, because what does world famous even mean? It can mean many different things. Am I successful on an international level? Yes, I am, to a degree, but it depends on how you look at it. Am I as well known as historical figures like Andy Warhol and Michelangelo? Of course not. I don't have that level of fame, not even closely, and I have no guarantee that I ever will have that level of fame, right? So I need to be very realistic in my goals. Though I admire famous artists, I need to focus on my journey and my doable steps to get to the level of fame that would make sense where I'm at in history, where I live, what matters to me, that my values are upheld, right? So that is what we mean by making sure that your goals are actually achievable, okay? Then relevant goals, okay? Your goals should also be relevant to the project you're working on. It's okay to have a few goals for another project, but the majority of your goals should be focused on the main project you need to accomplish. The point of this aspect of goal setting is to make sure your efforts are actually moving you toward your ultimate goal, right? And that target, I would add, is not a moving target. If your ultimate goal is to make more money, having a goal to clean your office isn't really relevant to that. Sure, organization can help you, but it doesn't make money. Making progress on another project is good, but not if it comes at the cost of not making progress on the more important project, okay? This is very difficult for me, and this taps into the topic of organization and actually having priorities, right? Prioritization. For me, this is hard because my creative mind can see 2,000 possibilities in 1 minute. So I have to really focus, right? And I do have this ADHD thing, and I'm not making that up. I'm not just saying that. I actually really do have ADHD, and I have to really focus. Sometimes even getting all the content together for you guys for my radio show is a battle for me, right? But I have to focus and prioritize if I want to succeed at business. So I have to keep my goals relevant. Right? Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and then timely goals. Okay? The T of SMART. Goals need a deadline, or they may never be achieved. Don't set goals for ages down the road. Instead, set smaller goals more frequently. If your goal is to finish project A by the end of the month, then that gives you plenty of room to slack off. But if you have smaller goals that are milestones of that month-long goal, then you're setting them throughout the month, you won't be able to slack off. Remember this, right? For example, if your goal is to have a website up in 30 days, set a goal to have your domain and web hosting by the end of the first week. Your theme and customization done the second week, and so on. Making your goals smarter. Okay, this is our next step now. Okay, remember she's writing here. Deb says, the above SMART goals are sound, but too often people still don't achieve what they set out to do. Do you feel like that? Because I'm going to be honest with you guys, I kind of feel like that, right? I sometimes feel like I'm doing the smart stuff. I'm doing the clever stuff, right? I'm working smarter, not harder. And still I get overwhelmed. Still I want to pull my hair out because it feels just like too many things pulling me in too many different directions, right? And I reached this point recently and I had to ask myself, what is going on, Avianne? What are you doing? What are you thinking, right? So I think what Deb writes here in the next part is the juice of our show today, really, okay? So part of the problem is that we don't make a sound plan to achieve our goals or take the appropriate action to reach goals. But many who do make a plan and take action will still struggle, and that's because they don't take time to figure out what's working and what isn't. That's where smarter goals come, you see? And when I came across this article, I knew I had to do a show on this. I knew this was the first article I came across, was the smarter one. And I'm like, I have to do a show on this because I'm sure I'm not the only person who keeps running into this thing where I have to just keep reevaluating things, right? And I have to figure out what's working and what is not working. And you know what I found out? About a third of what I'm doing in my academy is not working for me at all. So those will be things that I am not going to do moving forward. I'm just not going to do them. And I'm not going to say on air now exactly what they are, because that would be premature, because I still have to put a lot of things in place before I announce these changes to my students and before I actually take my business in a different direction. But I realize that certain things are just not working for me. And you know what? I am already behind the scenes making some changes. I am scaling down certain parts of my business while I am scaling up. I'll call it scale down and scale up, right? Scale up doesn't mean I make it bigger. Scale up just means I make it more efficient, right? And I target my business at a different kind of audience. So I am already scaling up my business, okay? And then certain parts of my business will be scaled down because those parts of my business are just not working. The numbers don't work for me the way I want them to. Because it's too much time. It's just too much time that goes into those things, and those things are not really paying off the way they should, considering how much effort I put in. And then I put the same amount of effort into other things in my academy, and those things are exploding. They are booming. They are working. They are fantastic, right? I love going to work and doing those things. And then these other things, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to go do this again today. So I am restructuring and I am reevaluating. So I'm like, yay, I am doing this. I am doing what Deb is writing about here. Okay, so this is where smarter goals comes into play. So the E of smarter, evaluate goals. As you work on your SMART goals, you want to evaluate whether or not they're working to get you what you want. Are the tasks you're doing moving towards success? If not, why not? What can you tweak, change, or get rid of to make them work? What is working well, and what can you do more of? Obviously, when your deadline for achievement is up, you need to figure out if you reach the goal or not, right? But depending on how far off your goal is and how many tasks are involved, it won't hurt to do mini evaluations along the way to make sure your efforts are moving you in the right direction. A monthly evaluation simply to see what happened in your business and get an idea of what's working is helpful too. At the very least, you should do quarterly evaluations for goals that's set for months ahead. Now, I just want to chip in here quickly and tell you guys this, okay? You can end up being counterproductive if you reevaluate and to the point where you second guess yourself on everything. So just be aware of this, okay? Because if you start second guessing every decision and you don't allow things to run a bit to see if they work, like for instance, when I introduce new courses into my Art Academy, I have to run them for about 3 months at least to see if the course is working or not. Because I know that where I'm at in my Art Academy, how my marketing is structured, the kinds of clients that come to me in general right now, if I don't run a course for at least 3 months, I can't really determine if it's going to be successful or not, because I will either kill it prematurely or I will hang on to it too long. Does that make sense to you guys? Like, I have to run it for a certain period of time for 3 months. If the course doesn't cut it in 3 months, I kill it. And it's not because I don't like the students or I don't want to work with people, but it's just like if I have to drag courses with my business that aren't really paying my bills for my business, that aren't really paying my teachers, that aren't really making any profit for me, then you know what? It's bad business. And as much as I care about the people involved, I have to kill that part of the business if it's not working, right? So that's just one simple example. But if I constantly introduce new courses, if every month there are new courses and old courses are not there anymore and new courses, then I'm going to confuse people. I'm going to confuse the heck out of people with all the courses I offer, because nobody's going to keep track anymore of what I'm doing, where I'm going, what is on, what is not on, what course is ending, what course is starting. I'm getting too confusing for people in how I market and what I put out there. So I have to run things a little bit, see if they work, keep them on the back burner, maybe run it again in 6 months at a different time of year, see if that makes a difference. But I'm very careful of second guessing myself and pivoting so much that I get into a flat spin. Does that make sense? You have to be careful. Reevaluate, test ideas out, get rid of what's not working, but don't do it like on a weekly or a monthly or a daily basis to the point where you are so confused and so confusing everyone else, okay? I hope that makes sense to you guys. I just wanted to bring that up, okay? So, but you do have to set evaluations. Quarterly evaluations are good. Yearly evaluations, definitely. Every year when I do my taxes and I get deep into my numbers, I can tell you exactly what is working and what is not working. Okay. And if I cannot see if something is working or not working in a year, then I get expert help, because that's not okay. I want to know what works and what doesn't work in my business. Then the R of smarter is reevaluate goals. When you make an adjustment to your tasks and goals, don't assume that it will fix the problem or boost success. Your fix could make things worse. It's true. I've tried that and I've done that. So I know that you can trust her when she says this. So could doing more of a good thing. It could actually make things worse. Sometimes too much of a good thing is bad. Reevaluating goals is also a good thing to do, because times change and what works today may not work tomorrow. If you follow this path of smarter goal setting, you'll see a huge increase in effectiveness and results of your efforts. You'll save time and money because you'll be focused on what works, and you will not be wasting your time on things that don't work. Okay? And then a little side note on Deb. Deb is a direct sales trainer who used to own a party plan business and added it to her corporate job position. She now teaches wannabe direct sellers how to start a party planning business and work at home. And that, being a mouthful, is the end of part 2 of our show today, and we will be back shortly with part 3.
Talent is a flame. Genius is a fire. And now we return to our show with your host, Avianne.
Yes, and we are back with part 3, the last and final part of our show today, episode 28 of Your Creative Force. Smart business goals being our topic for today. Okay, so let's just go over SMART again, or smarter, like what Deb Bixler wrote. Smarter business goals. SMARTER stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, timeless, evaluation, and re-evaluation. Okay? So, that was quite a mouthful. Now I want to talk about my own experience and strategies in using SMART goals to curb moving targets, because as I was going through today's show content, I'm like, okay, how have I knowingly or unknowingly applied this in the past? How do I wish to apply it in the future? And how am I actually using this now? Where I am right now. Remember in the beginning of me starting Your Creative Force, the show, I was telling you guys, I am going to be real with you. I'm not here to paint you pretty pictures about doing a small business. I'm not here to tell you that everyone on the planet should be an entrepreneur. I don't think that's true. I think there's a lot of junk, a lot of hokey pokey, junky, even junk science out there about these things. And I don't think that my show is necessarily for everyone, because I don't want to be changing diapers for people here, right? I'm not going to treat you like you're a baby, or like I'm just going to pat your head and tell you everything's always going to be okay. You need to get down and dirty. You need to, you need to make the mud pies in business sometimes, and they're not always pretty, right? So I want to always be real with you guys and talk from my own experience as well, and what I have found works for me and what doesn't work for me. Okay. So the last part of the show today, as far as SMART business goals are concerned, I'm just going to talk to you guys straight up about my own experiences and give you some great tips and some great finishing advice on our topic today, so that you can finish strong, right? And things that you can actually apply and that are practical and that will work for you, that are easy, that are doable, so you don't feel overwhelmed, right? So I don't want you to get into this mode of, oh my goodness, I have no idea what I'm doing. Okay, don't even go there, because that'll drive you crazy. Okay, but I think we can learn from each other, and I am going to try and have you maybe learn a little something from me today, okay? So our smarter goals, as we've just discussed in part 1 and part 2, they need to be evaluated objectively and consistently. You need to try and detach yourself from your goals sometimes to see if your goals actually make sense, okay? This is very difficult to do because it involves you getting super honest with yourself and super objective about what you're doing and how you're doing it, right? Remember, first of all, this would be my first little piece of advice to you. Remember that your business is an organism and not a monolith, okay? And what I mean by this is your business is not set in stone. Everything exactly that you have done up to now and that you are good at doing right now, that's great, but that doesn't mean that moving forward and for the rest of your life, those are the only ways you can do business or the only things you can forever do. Right? Long ago, before the internet, maybe we were in silos, maybe we were in monoliths, right? Each person was kind of like in their own little world doing their own little business. But today's world is super small and super connected because of the internet. There are 1,000 different ways to do one thing, 1,001,000,000 different places to do them in, and millions and millions of people to do them with, right? So you have to understand that you're not on an island. You're not isolated. You're not a monolith, okay? You're not from the prehistoric era. You live in this era with a lot at your disposal and a lot of opportunities and a lot of possibilities. So if there are things in your business that aren't working for you, it's not the end of the world, because there are probably 1,000 other things related to that thing that could work far better for you, right? And that can get you to your goals faster. Financial goals, business goals, self-actualization goals, study goals, learning goals, business goals, can be any kind of goal you want to set for yourself. You have to understand that your business is an organism which naturally can expand and contract and get itself into different states of being and go in different directions. It's not cast in stone anymore, right? some things are cast in stone. Like for me, I think the kind of entrepreneurship I will always pursue will be creative entrepreneurship because that is my thing. But I also know that creativity can mean a million different things, and I'm not going to limit myself just to my comfort zone. So be careful of your comfort zone making you monolithic in business, right? Your business is an ever increasing, ever growing, ever expanding, ever evolving organism. It's a living thing. So learn to see your business as a living entity, not as this dead thing that is cast in stone for the rest of your existence, right? Then, and this is very hard to do, you may want some help from people you trust to do this. You need to get honest about your emotions and pain points and find out exactly where they are coming from, but also don't be too hard on yourself, okay? I know that sometimes I want to run away from challenges because I have a fear of failure that can sometimes step in and tell me, what if you don't succeed? What if you don't make it? What if this dream is too big or too crazy? What if you never make it as an artist? It's a very common thing for artists to deal with. But I have to just tell myself, listen, that is just an irrational fear, okay? Now, if I fear suddenly putting tens of thousands of dollars into a business venture I'm not sure of, that's a different kind of fear. That's a kind of a reasonable fear. And I think in that case, I should do my homework, right? So you need to learn to step back from your emotions, to really see things without too much emotion attached, okay? And then you have to step back and pretend this business does not belong to you. If this was someone else's business, how would I help them improve their goals and keep their targets clear? Sometimes I do this. I just pretend, okay, this is not my art academy. This is not I'm not the person making this art, wanting to sell it. How would I do it? It just adds a little bit of objectivity to the equation, right? Then, this I do also. I get a team of trusted professionals to help me work through the goals and set more effective targets, okay? The guy who is in charge of my online marketing is fantastic. I call him on a regular basis and I ask him, what do you think about this thing I want to market? Do you think this would work for my market? Because he's so fantastic in marketing and he gets my business so well. He's been working with me for 10 years now and he knows me and he knows my business, okay? Then step away for a few days and think things over. I find that sometimes if I just for a few days go work on something completely different in one of my other businesses or go and just try to take my mind off things for a day or two, then I get clarity, right? You have to step away to think things over. Tap into your creative force. What are your instincts telling you, right? Remember that you have your creative force. We talked about this in the first few episodes, so go back and listen to those. Ask great questions. Is this really what and how you want it? If not, change it. There's no point in sitting around complaining, right? If you don't like something, then change it. Don't sit around complaining, driving yourself nuts. Figure out how you can change it and start doing those doable steps, right? Then, two last pieces of food for thought. Analysis paralysis kills productivity. If you analyze things to the point where you cannot function and you just go in circles in your mind, it's time to just take action. It's time to get yourself out of the rut because you can literally drive yourself to a point of being paralyzed by overanalyzing things. Remember that. And then lastly, sometimes productivity can be your worst enemy because it leaves no room for you to listen to your creative force. If you are constantly busy being productive, but you never take the time to just let your thoughts go, to meditate on your business, to just maybe go fishing or something, right? Take your mind off things. And it's weird how that works, but it's like your intuition steps forward, your creative force comes out, and it's like you know what to do next. It's very cool how that works, okay? So learn to rest, not to quit, right? Learn to rest and not to quit. And with that, we're going to end episode 28 of Your Creative Force today. Smart business goals, okay? And our quote of the day is from the famous international life and business coach and motivational speaker Zig Ziglar. And Zig Ziglar said, what you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you become by achieving your goals. Remember that, and I will see you next time. Speaking to you soon on Your Creative Force. This is Avianne signing off.
Talent is a flame. genius of fire. Visit us at artbyavian.com. Tune in next time as we explore your creative force. Thank you for listening.